So if we go back to '99, for instance, Solar Power Electric Association back then was sort of, fighting an uphill battle, as it were. Solar was still considered kind of a few guys, greenies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Flash forward to this year, we're looking at potential that's just booming all around the entire world.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so actually one of the things I highlighted in my speech this morning is that it's actually SEPA's 20th anniversary this year. So we were formed in 1992, and I talked a little bit about the initial program that SEPA managed, which was a public-private partnership between Department of Energy and both the solar and utility industries. And that program between 95 and 2000 actually was the program that drove the installation of 1,100 PV systems, which more than doubled the then current capacity of PV in the U.S. But it was very much one-off. Everything was a demonstration project, right? Nothing was sort of out of the box. And it was really hard, especially for utilities when prices were so high, to be able to find ways that it made sense for their business. Fast forward over the past 5 years, prices have been coming down very fast. Customers have a growing interest in solar. And so from SEPA's perspective, working primarily with utilities, but really as the bridge between the utility and solar industries, it's amazing to see what's happening now. We go back to '92 and there were less than 5 megawatts of grid-connected PV. In 2011, more than 1,800 megawatts of grid-connected PV last year. So really substantial growth. And utilities have a very important role to play in that. Now that the prices have come down so far, utilities realize that they have to get on board. Solar is no longer something that someday might impact them. It's something that's impacting them now. And they need to be in the value chain and helping their customers find ways to go solar. So it's a tough time for utilities because the current utility regulatory framework is one that's 100 years old. It was built based on large central station power plants, and that's how rates were designed, was figuring out how to pay for those big central station power plants that everybody benefited from. It wasn't designed for hundreds or thousands of individual customers being their own electricity generators. So utilities are very eager to figure this out with the solar industry. How do we make changes to the regulatory structure, to rate design, to all of these things, find business models where utilities and the solar industry and customers, individual customers, can all benefit from the growth we're seeing in the solar space.
From your organization's perspective, what's your feeling in terms of this incredible drop in price of panels in the last year? This 40% drop that's driving, demand issues in other countries. It's driving this incredible increase of manufacturing in China. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about that in terms of?
Well, it's a great thing. Prices coming down mean that more people can afford it, right? And if that's why we're all in this business, is because we all believe solar should be a bigger piece of the U.S. energy portfolio. And so low prices mean it's a better option for customers, for utilities, for businesses. So it's a good thing. Over time, of course, prices are going to continue to come down. Over the next year or two, might we see some stabilization or possibly even prices going back up a little bit? Certainly possible, but that's a short-term issue. Long-term, prices will continue to come down even further.
Does your organization see rooftop solar, residential rooftop solar, as sort of helping the whole movement along, but not really contributing significantly to the overall problem? Or do you think that it's a pivotal part of the equation of having consumers installing it on the rooftops?
I think it's going to be both. People ask this question all the time. Which is the winner? Is it distributed rooftop PV or is it central station, bigger power plants? And I think it has to be both. Solar has great potential to be a big part of the nation's energy mix, but we need both. And different people have different interests in solar. Some customers really like that independence they get from being able to say they generate their own electricity. So that's a very important piece of it. It can be very substantial, but we're going to continue to see. One of the trends we're actually seeing with utilities across the country both the large utilities, but also some of the small municipals and rural co-ops, is a huge increase in systems in the sort of 1 to 20 megawatt size. And so we're seeing a real uptick in interest and these can be very community-based systems. You don't have to put them far out in the desert. You can put them places where people can still see them. And so it's a real interesting combination of both the rooftop and those ground-mounted larger systems that are going to make solar live up to its potential in the U.S.
To me, it seems that the industry is still in enough of an infancy that it needs as many evangelists as it can. And if that's a homeowner, if it's a business owner
Sure.
who now suddenly is saving hundreds of thousands of dollars, if it's an agricultural business that is now able to make their, whatever they're producing viable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, would you agree?
I completely agree. Right. We need everybody on board at all levels, regardless of what your political affiliation is or what your profession is. Yeah, the more people that believe in what we're all trying to accomplish, the faster we're going to get towards our end goals.
For myself, I was an interested party for many years, but always the cost of insulation just seemed, prohibitive.
Sure.
When the leasing programs came on, I was one of the first that jumped on and took advantage of it because it suddenly made it affordable to get
That's right.
solar, so that I could be, an active evangelist instead of just an interested
That's right.
evangelist.
Yeah,
talk to me about what that leasing option has done for rooftop solar.
Yeah, I mean, it's made a drastic shift in the industry. Historically, just like you said, the upfront cost of capital was the big barrier for individual customers, whether it be residential or small commercial. And now that they have leasing options available to them, it's very affordable for many, many customers. So here, we saw residential leasing for the first time really overtake. The majority of residential customers are now going through the leasing model rather than purchasing the systems directly up front. So it's exciting as that model begins to spread across and become available in more and more states nationwide. It makes solar a realistic option for more people.
I spoke with a gentleman out of Texas whose company is buying up and is investing in large-scale solar installations. Mm-hmm. And his big mantra was grid parity is really a key factor for making this thing really go on the utility scale. What are your thoughts about the ability to achieve grid parity?
Well, grid parity is a tricky thing, right? Lots of people sort of hold that up as the holy grail, and is it really the holy grail? I don't know. I mean, it's important, but defining the costs and the benefits of solar, if you're just talking about a straight retail rate, solar meeting that retail rate, you may not be taking into account the other value that solar has that you can't put a dollar figure on or easily put a dollar figure on. So yes, if we could get to retail grid parity, which of course is different in every single state, every utility territory, grid parity would be a different number, so it's a complicated thing as well. If we got there, great. Do we need to get all the way there for solar to really just dramatically take off? No, because I think more and more people are recognizing the additional value that solar can provide beyond just the value of the electricity itself.
All right. But in their case, I mean, if they're buying up companies and they're buying and investing in them, it's important to him, but it may not be to the entire industry. Is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on whether or not it's important who controls the most manufacturing of these panels? I mean, so I guess it's addressing the China issue. Does the industry care that they have done this?
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for the industry. SEA is the trade association for the solar industry. SEPA plays a very unique role. We are not a trade association. We're a 501c3, so we remain neutral on all issues. The thing I can say is, certainly manufacturing is important to the U.S. economy. But on the other hand, as we already talked about, low prices for solar are important to much greater adoption of it in the U.S. So it's a tricky balance to determine, where things should fall out and what's in the industry's overall best interest.
8 years ago, I remember having an argument with somebody about, solar, and they said, well, it doesn't matter what we do. China has got these manufacturing, they're putting out greenhouse gases. It's not going to matter. There's countries like that that are going to be putting out so much. So to me, there's a certain irony in the fact that China got smart and decided to go big time into it. They still have issues with their industry, pollution, and et cetera. But yet here they are becoming one of the worldwide leaders in contributing to solar development.
Yeah, but the U.S., although we may not be the leader in manufacturing anymore, I think we are still one of the innovation leaders in the solar space. A lot of the innovative new technologies, a lot of the research, the R&D that's being done is being done here in the U.S. So it's going to be about how do we keep that intellectual property here, and how do we grow as the technology changes and improves and becomes more and more efficient, and there are new different types of systems developed. How do we keep that here and begin to build manufacturing of those new technologies here in the U.S.?
Exactly. Energy in this election. It's already seemed to be coming up. The one party is accusing the other of being party to raising the gas prices, which is, and I envision that down the road in the next coming months that the energy solutions and whatnot will become more a part of the election. Do you see that as well?
I hope so. I do think, again, SEPA doesn't get involved in policy and influencing policy, but one thing I can tell you is that one thing everybody needs is some certainty and some long-term perspective on what policy to expect. So whatever the policy might look like, it is in the best interest of the solar industry, the utility industry, everybody else to know what the policies will, to have a policy, especially to have a national energy policy, not just solar policy, but a national energy policy. What as a nation are we working towards when it relates to our energy? And then we can all adapt to it. People can create innovative business models based on whatever that national energy policy looks like. But without that, it's very difficult for people to do business regardless of what space you're in.
Any other topics you'd like to cover as far as this event and what you're looking forward to this year?
We're excited that so we've been doing the Solar Power International show since 2004. PV America started just a couple of years ago. We're excited next year actually we'll be doing PV America twice, East and West. So we'll be growing the portfolio of shows from Solar Power America, PV America on one coast or the other to PV America West. And it's just a great indication, again, of how much the industry is growing, that it can support more shows, that we can provide regional content that's very specialized and focused on what the industry in that set of states is needing currently. So we're really excited about expanding the PV America brand to be bi-coastal next year.
Well, if you can do that many more shows and increase like that, then that means there's more companies that are making
That's
money,
right.
that are developing, et cetera.
That's right.
One last question,
Sure.
if I could. Like you talked about, there's a lot of development, R&D that's going into efficiencies, new materials, thin film panels, et cetera. Do you think that we need that? All that stuff is crucial, or is silicon-based panels still got a life to them?
I think it definitely has a long life, right? But this industry has never been an industry of breakthroughs, right? It's been an industry of incremental improvements. So I see that still being the case. Breakthroughs would be wonderful, but I'm not sort of keeping my fingers crossed for that. And the technology we have today is great. It works. It's reliable. The cost is coming down to make it very competitive now. So, any incremental improvements we can make and new things to get added to that, great. But it's not as though we suddenly need this new technology overhaul in order to really move the industry forward.
Right. Although it would be very exciting to have, say, for instance, wall coatings that are solar.
Sure.
To me, I envision the 18-wheelers going on the road and having all those big boxes covered in some sort of thin film solar that could help power those vehicles and reduce.
I hope I live to see it. Yeah.
Well, I hope it's not very far off, personally.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Julia.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it very much.
Yeah.